Hey all, Baruch Levi, B here from Soul Centered. Thanks for tuning in. I want to share with you some thoughts around my Defiant Spirit. For those of you who don't know, I am the creator of the Defiant Spirit. It is the work of the Enneagram, which is a personality assessment system. I love the Enneagram. I'm passionate about using it in my life and in guiding people utilizing it. It's this sort of picture you see in front of you. It's got 9 numbers, 9 energies, 9 basic ways that we show up in the world. And I merged that with the work of Dr. Viktor Frankl, my teacher, founder of logotherapy. I'm a logotherapist, meaning-centered psychotherapy and living. And really, Dr. Frankl's thesis comes down to a very simple idea. Let me put it up here on words for those of you who want to see it. I built the entirety of the Defiant Spirit around Dr. Frankl's quote, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies our freedom and our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our happiness. So what does that mean? It means that shit happens. And between the time of shit happening and us reacting or responding, we have a moment, we have a space. It can be a moment, it can be years, it can be a fraction of a second, but whatever it is, for that space, during that space, we have the ability to choose our response. We have the power to choose. And that is our freedom. How do we choose, though, when most of the time we're just reacting? We're not choosing. We're just ending up as one of our core numbers, our core type. This is the Enneagram. There are 9 basic ways we react. And there are also 9 potential ways we can respond, or more than 9 potential ways. But we look at, how do I react? Where do I go when I'm in fear? To me, that's really what the Enneagram is all about. It shows us where where Baruch Levi goes when he's in fear. So I react like an 8. And the core fear of an 8 really is feeling weak or powerless or vulnerable. And so my whole world goes into, I'm in fear mode. I shut down. And whatever comes after that moment, it's not authentic. It's not my highest self, my true self, my spirit. And so the work is to take back the power to choose our response. And that's where I use the Enneagram, because it's a roadmap to show us how to stop reacting and start responding, and to live out Dr. Frankl's message, to the freedom of our power to choose our response, and to be happy and to grow. And this is the most recent podcast that I've done. I'm doing lots of podcasts now, and I have different partners. One of my partners in podcasting is a friend and client and partner in developing the Defiant Spirit, Scott Schaffman. Scott is a great human being and really done a tremendous amount of work. Scott, shout out to you and the work you've done. Scott and I talk about in this podcast the work he's done as an Enneagram 2. Scott's a helper, and his work has been, he's a nurturer by disposition, by personality, by calling in life. That's what 2s really are at their best. They're here to connect. That's the superpower of a 2. They want to connect with other people. And so he's really talked about how he's brought this to his work. He's a very successful professional in the mortgage industry. And the mortgage industry is not really prone to relationship building. That's not what it's known for. It's not like nursing or social work. And yet that's too bad, because any industry provides for us an opportunity to be our true self. You don't have to, if you're a 2 and you're a nurturer and you're a helper, well, Scott has shown us, you don't have to leave to go find a better industry that's more suited to your type. What if you defy your reaction? And your reaction would be, if for Scott to be in the mortgage industry, to just look like every other mortgage lender, right? To play the game. But that's not what Scott does. And Scott's clients will be the first to tell you, he doesn't seem like your typical mortgage guy. He looks like a 2 who happens to be dealing in mortgages. And how he sees his work is, he's a connector. He's a relationship builder. He's happens to be getting people into the right mortgage. That's not a small thing. I mean, look at how our economy collapsed in 2008, was it, around mortgages. It's a very important piece of our society. It's the biggest investment most of us will ever make. It's the foundation literally of our lives, where security is such an important thing. And for those of us who have a home, whether it's through a rental or through a mortgage, we know how important it is. You also know how complicated it is. And so when people go to Scott, he doesn't treat them like a customer. He treats them like a person, and connects them to the right way to get into their home. Scott and I talk a lot about, he's not really in the mortgage business. He's in the security and wealth business. He helps people find security and build wealth. And so bringing that to his work, well, there was many years where he just wasn't ready, just like lots of us. And he talks a lot about in this podcast and in previous podcasts how he compartmentalized, like most of us do, at least until a period in our lives where we're compartmentalizing our lives. And this is how I am at home, and this is how I am at work, and almost closeting. Let's say if you're a two, when you go to work, you don't show that piece. You look more like an achiever, especially if you're in a corporate setting. Threes and eights, the achievers and the challengers, maybe sevens, they're the ones who really kind of raise up in the corporate environments, and we celebrate in the corporate environments. We try and be them. We kind of portray them in movies as the winners. But if you're a three, be a three. But if you're a two, like Scott, then be a two in a corporate setting and bring your superpower to that. So he talks a lot about in this podcast and in previous podcasts, how he no longer compartmentalizes. He no longer lives one way at work and one way at home and one way with friends and one way with parents. This is who I am. He beautifully calls it the open floor plan, coming from his line of work, in realty. The open floor plan, right? Just opening up our homes now, getting rid of some of the walls and saying, it's just what you see is what you get. We'll bring the open floor plan to your life, to your relationships, to your business. Don't live compartmentalized. It doesn't mean you have to bear all to everybody all the time. That's not what the open floor plan is. That's not what authenticity is. Authenticity is about living our values, living in alignment, and saying, I can't and I won't anymore compartmentalize my values. It doesn't mean dumping, and it doesn't mean oversharing, but it does mean living with integrity, living with wholeness. And that's what Scott so beautifully represents in my podcasts. And that's why I have him continuously back on the Defiant Spirit. And really can't say enough about him and the work he's done. So jump over there, defiantspirit.org. You can listen to the latest podcast. You can get it on all of your usual platforms where you listen to podcasts. Right now, you can get it on Soul Centered and the Defiant Spirit, but I am just moving over solely to Defiant Spirit. I'm moving my whole brand over there, my work over there, because I've built an entire now Enneagram system around it. You can learn more about it at defiantspirit.org. Check out my new program, Defy Your Number. You can take the Enneagram test, a very high level test, not the cheapies, but an expensive one. You get what you pay for. And then I give you an ebook, substantial ebook on your core type, and a session with me, and we work together to really understand your core type, the materials you're going to be receiving, and strategies to move forward to choose your response. You are not an Enneagram 2 or an 8 or a 7. You're never a number. You're a spirit. But you got to defy your number to get back to your spirit, to live your true self in all aspects of your life. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for tuning in. Share this with people you think might be interested, trying to spread the word of the Defiant Spirit so we can all defy our number and live our spirit. Take care.